The Go Kart.
Oh yeah, the Go Kart.
We've got a 40 series torque converter from the ROP shop that we got off Amazon, and we're gonna unbox this baby and see if we can bolt it onto our 440cc Duromax.
We're gonna be working on that.
All right, guys, so we got our 40 series whole little kit from the ROP shop. So this is how it comes from Amazon. So it looks like here's our shaft. We even got a cover for the 40 series, which I doubt will fit for the way, we don't have a lot of room on this thing between the CVT and that kind of frame. So I doubt we can use this, but it's kind of cool that it comes with it. And this whole kit, I think, was about 200 bucks. I'll pop a link onto Amazon below where you guys can buy it. But the whole reason I really needed this is because of this backing plate to be able to work. I also didn't have this shaft to work with my 30 series. And I'm going to confirm it right now, but I think the distance from the driven pulley, or I guess this would be the driven pulley, to the, I don't know, the clutch pulley or whatever. I think this is different. So I'm going to actually do a comparison. Yeah, let's walk it over here right now, Cammy.
Yeah.
And kind of show these guys. So let's come over to this workbench here. So if we compare, okay, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's definitely longer, right? So if we look at this 30 series compared to the 40 series, this distance is certainly longer on here, which is what I thought just looking at it. But man, this plate's so much bigger. Hopefully this is kind of all gonna fit. So now we're gonna have to go ahead, kind of bolt it up, mock it up, see if it's all gonna work. I might have to even just pop this motor off here to be able to do it. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing on the mount, the camera on the mount, and then we're gonna get to work and see how this is all gonna look and fit up, if it even fits up.
Yep, let's see.
Hopefully, right? Otherwise, if this doesn't work, we're gonna have to spend the $370 and get the Go Power Sports setup, which I think will work for sure, but this is a lot less expensive, right? So hopefully, fingers crossed. All right, guys, so before we get started, I wanted to just kind of show you all the hardware and everything that comes with this kit. So besides the backing plate that's just sitting over there, we've got, of course, our, this is our driven pulley. Yeah, driven pulley, and then, I don't know, clutch pulley, whatever this is called. But anyway, so that's pretty similar to the previous one we had. And then this is all the hardware. So the new shaft that we needed, because this is definitely a lot longer. Where's the other shaft?
I don't know.
Anyway, new shaft that we needed, 12 tooth sprocket, I think. A couple different hardware bolts to go into the kind of crankshaft snout or whatever. And then a few different bolts to actually fasten it to the motor. So I'm not sure which we're gonna need yet. There's no instructions that come with this, but it's pretty straightforward. Basically, this is gonna go into your driven pulley, and then one of these bolts will bolt this actually down. And then this basically slides through the back of the backing plate facing this way, and then you just kind of screw it down onto this pulley. So it's all pretty simple stuff, but I'm not sure if we're going to need this because we already do have, I think, a 12 tooth, but I don't know. Now that we're switching backing plates, I may have to swap this out. I may have to change my chain around, the number of chain teeth, so we're going to have to figure all that out as we go. All right, guys, so real quick, I started looking at this. I'm going to try to bolt this backing plate on, but it looks like the way, it only clocks kind of one way. And it looks like the way that it's going to clock down, it's actually going to hit my crank, or my drive sprocket down here. So there's probably two ways to get around it. One would be to maybe move the motor higher, which we can't really do though, because then we're gonna hit this, the exhaust here is gonna hit on the bottom of that wing. And I think we also had some clearance issues already with this exhaust hitting the gas tank. Of course, I could put some spacers and move the gas tank up a little bit, but then we're getting into a whole bunch of issues. So I'm not sure. Anyway, let me go ahead and bolt this on and then we'll kind of make a decision. But the problem we have is, see this plate? It's gonna hit our drive sprocket.
Oh, yeah.
So see, I need it to be like...
Wait. I don't know.
See, is it hitting?
No.
It's hitting, right? Yeah, see, it's totally hitting.
Yeah.
So I need it to be like...
Oh, right there.
All right, guys, so it looks like this is not gonna work for us too. So I've got a couple bolts in. So this is where it wants to live, But the problem you can see is that this is kind of angled down so hard that it's hitting our drive sprocket. So the only way to really remedy this would be to move the engine up probably 4 inches, 4 to 5 inches, because we would need some clearance. Yeah, so that's not gonna work probably, because then, like I said, for one, I don't really wanna have to move this all the way up, and if we do, we're gonna run into clearance issues. Once this suspension compresses all the way, then we start getting some hitting onto these things. We also have an issue where this plate, or this backing plate, can't really go any higher anyway, because it's gonna be actually hitting the exhaust. So that's not really an option either. So the only kind of good thing I see about this plate for this 440 is that it does give us a lot more room on this drain plug. And that's mostly because of the distance difference between the 30 series and 40 series, where the 40 series is longer. So now we could put the regular dipstick cap back on, which I'll probably do. I also ended up cutting this in a previous video for the 30 series. So we would not need to clearance this for a 40 series. But, so again, you can see the clearance problem down here, right? So yeah, so it's definitely not back, you know, as far as it would be and stuff too. But anyway, I don't think this is gonna work. I could just like make a template, mark new holes to move it upwards, but the problem then is we're hitting the exhaust. So I don't think that's gonna work. Basically, I don't think this would work without some real modification. I mean, I could potentially kind of cut a notch in here into the plate. That would allow me to move it up. And then I could, of course, drill 4 new holes, you know, to be able to rotate it. Those are kind of the only options I'm thinking. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go with the GO Power Sports, just because there's no other options on the market for like a clockable backing plate for a 40 series. Only GO Power Sports has it. All right, guys, so me and Cammie have been sitting here kind of looking at this for just a minute.
Just a minute, not a whole time, not like 2 hours.
I think it's gonna work though, right?
Yeah, because right when you screw the things in, it'll move back, so it won't touch this.
All right, so let me kind of fill them in on what we're looking at. So guys, if I get it right about here, you can see that we are clearing the drive sprocket, and this whole unit will still move back away. You know, it needs to go back probably another inch. It just won't clear because it's hitting the exhaust. So my idea is just to simply notch this out. I'm gonna run a notch. Now I do have some concerns that once we notch this, we're gonna take some strength away. This looks to be just a cast aluminum piece, so it's probably not very strong. So we could run into actually some cracking issues down the road where this could wobble. So that's probably why GO Power Sports uses a real thick steel plate to not have those problems. But again, this is like $200 versus $370. So for $170, I might be willing to just give it a shot. I do have an aluminum welder, so if this starts to crack or give me issues down the road, I can always weld it or brace it from the backside. But I think this might be the way to go, because once we get that braced, we could keep it right about here, which looks like it's clearing.
This is fine to touch that. It's fine to touch that.
Yep.
That's fine, but it's not good to touch that.
So we can only go up as high as where the back of this will hit the cylinder head, which again, it gives us just the right amount of clearance. Whoops, down there at the bottom. So I think that this might work, but then we'll just have to re-drill, of course, new holes. So it'll be more like there. But I think what I'm gonna do is probably pull the whole motor out just so I can get it up on the bench. Then we can kind of, you know, cut this out, modify all this stuff, and then it'll be easier on the bench, and then we can set the whole thing back in.
Yes.
All right, guys, so some decisions have been made, and the inner frugal, cheap guy that I am in me is saying that we are gonna actually keep this ROP shop, and we're just gonna do a modification to it rather than go with the more expensive GO Power Sports, because I'm just thinking, especially if I'm gonna spend the extra $50 to get these spring upgrade and the slider weight upgrade deal, you know, then I'm really gonna be like $430 in versus like $250. So we're gonna modify this thing. Also, I kind of looked at something that swayed me, so let me show you that too. So guys, if we look here at this original 30 series backing plate, it's probably 1/4 inch thick aluminum. You know, compared to this one, it's harder to see just because it's got the lip on it, but just feeling it, this is actually thicker than the 30 series. So I'm pretty confident. Like, I think it's going to be fine. This doesn't seem cast, or at least the surface finish. It's probably cast as well, but it's got a little bit smoother surface finish. Looks like this one's a little bit rougher, just straight out of the mold or whatever, but I think it's going to be fine. This is super thick. It's got the lip running the whole way around it, which also gives it more strength. So I think that even though we're going to be kind of cutting a little section out, I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue. I think we're going to be just fine. So we're going to go ahead and proceed. We're going to give this a shot and rock out. So I think first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and pop the motor off here, and we're just gonna do everything on the bench and basically rotate this up as far as we can where it's hitting the cylinder head, and then we can bolt it back in place and we should be good to go. All right, guys, so to get the motor out, it's pretty simple. In the other videos, I mean, it's just the reversal of putting it in, right? But basically all we need to do is just go ahead and disconnect the fuel supply. Then we've got the throttle cable right here that I'll have to disconnect. And then it's just 4 bolts on the bottom side of the motor. Yeah, so it should be pretty easy to pop off, and then this thing will slide right out of here. So not much to it. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that, and then we'll come back on the bench and we'll start modifying the plate.
So let's do it. Ooh. Yep. Are you stressed? Oh, it's like, is that gas?
Yep.
Oh, it smells good.
I gotta tell you guys, having stainless steel fasteners, it makes stuff so nice. They cost a lot more money, but you know, all these things just popped right off. No issues, no nothing. So this thing's all ready to go. Let's see if we can pop her up, get her on the workbench after I just spilled gallons of gas all over the floor, but let's see, where's a good spot to grab this girl? Maybe like that. Okay. All right, there she is, look at that. All right, let's clean some of this gas off this thing, but one other tip I like to do is for the engine bolts, I just went ahead and put them all back, you know, where they came out of, because there's a few different slots down there. So, you know, you never know if something might happen. I may end up not finishing this or getting this put back together today. It might be a week from now. And, you know, you end up forgetting stuff. So I always like to take an extra minute, put stuff back where it was. Then when I go to pop this motor back in next week, I'll be able to pop those bolts back out of where they are now, but I know exactly where they go back, right? So there's no figuring it out or putting something in only to realize you have to pop it back off and move stuff around. That's how you really waste a lot of time. So 30 seconds spent, you know, could save you 10 minutes down the road. So it's always a good little thing to do. So let's get this cleaned up. We spilled so much gas everywhere. So, let's slide this back around. Actually, you know what? I know for sure we're not going to get this done because I am going to go ahead and order the new springs and stuff for this thing. Or actually, sorry, for this one. So we can actually start taking this apart today too. Once we get that cover modified and all these bolts done, if we get time, we can start to do this, get that ready until the new stuff comes and get that all back in. So should be some simple stuff. Let's start modifying this bad boy. First things first, my thought on here is I'm just going to go make a cardboard template of, you know, make a hole, we'll mark these, and then all we got to do is kind of clock it to where we want it, and then that'll give us, kind of tell us how we're going to be able to drill our new holes. We can get those drilled, and we can also go ahead and modify this portion here. We're just going to do a nice little cutout to be able to wrap around and also make sure we have room to service these bolts here for the exhaust manifold. Man, I wish I would have used stainless on here. These are already getting rusty. This thing's never even been outside. I mean, it just lives its life in my garage. So anyway, yeah, we'll kind of mark this up, get an idea of how we're going to cut this thing, and then go from there, guys. So I think we're just going to do, I was kind of going back and forth there. I want to modify it just simply for this here, this protrusion of the exhaust. But then if I was out in the field and I needed to service this, I would have to take the whole cover off. Or do I want to just go ahead and just cut this whole thing out? And that way, even with the cover on, I'd still be able to get in here with an Allen wrench and be able to pull this off. So I think I'd like to do option 2 and be able to service this with the plate on. That way I'm not having to take a whole bunch of stuff apart if I just want to make a simple change to this exhaust. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop this whole thing. I feel pretty comfortable. Again, I still think there's going to be quite a bit of strength here from just the thickness, and also having this kind of curved portion the whole way around. That's going to add a lot of strength to it. And then, like I said, down the road, if this ends up having some stress fractures or cracks, I think we could put kind of a plate on the back side of this and then TIG weld that on there. Just tack it into place even. That would help it. So I think that's going to be fine. This is kind of where it's going to live. Something like this, just kind of as high up as it can go against the back of the cylinder head. So let's go ahead and modify this. All right, so to go ahead and cut this part out, I'm just going to use a simple 4-inch cutoff wheel, of course with some safety glasses, and we're going to go ahead and cut this baby up. And also throw some gloves on, just to be safe. Tip of the day, boys. One little thing I like to do, get yourself 2 4.5-inch angle grinder cutoff wheels. The reason why is that way you're not always having to switch between cutting and then also like grinding. So these are super cheap at Harbor Freight. You can usually get them for, I don't know, like $12 to $15. So get yourself 2. That way you got one for grinding, one for cutting. You can just switch between them. It just makes life a lot faster. That's all she wrote. Now, aluminum is always really, really sharp, guys. So we are going to want to go ahead and we'll kind of clean this up a little bit with the grinder. Then we're going to file it just to make it look a little bit prettier. But first, we'll probably go ahead, let's mock it up on the motor. Let's make sure it looks like it's going to work. With our first cut, you can see, I think honestly, it looks like, I don't know where the heck I was cutting, but we need to kind of make one more little notch real quick over this way, just so we have more room to access here. And I also don't know if this is quite far enough down. I think it will be, because I think this needs to come down a little more, but when I'm just grinding right now and cleaning it up, I'm just going to grind a little bit more just to make sure we have access for that. But otherwise, I think we're pretty good. So now it'll just be some cleanup, and then we can proceed to go ahead and do these bolt holes. All right, guys, so we're about to do the template. So this should be a pretty simple thing to do. We just cut out some cardboard from our Coke box. We got that down here. Go ahead and show them, Camo.
Okay.
So we're just literally going to kind of trace this out.
All the
Trace
way.
out our holes.
That looks fun.
Yep. And then we'll be able to just spin it around. All right, so we got our little template made, our cardboard template. So basically with the motor, sitting flat, these are also, I guess, parallel to the ground, right? So we know that no matter where this is going to be sitting, we're going to have to make sure that these are kind of just straight up. So it shouldn't be too hard. We'll kind of wing it. I don't care if we have to elongate bolts and stuff to get it to work. That's fine with me. So we'll Loctite these babies up. Should be fine. So I need to go get a spacer actually to move the motor up a little bit, but basically it's going to be something like that. So you can see how curved our current holes are. So we'll have to use our little template and just kind of move it around. All right, guys, so there's not a whole lot of rotation. These holes are going to be really close to the other holes. So I think what I'm going to do is probably just try to drill these out, and then we'll kind of see how it works. I'm hoping, though, there's enough meat I can just kind of make a hole next to it if it has to be a little bit larger, and have some washers on here to kind of crank these down. That's totally fine. That's actually what ended up happening on the other torque converter, because we had to modify that. We had to kind of elongate some of these holes, and it held up fine, never came loose. So I think with some blue Loctite, some washers, some lock washers, we won't have any issues. So we're gonna get to trying to drill these out, and then we can kind of get it finally bolted up. But it's been like a decade since I've had a drill press. So my dad ended up getting me this little, little cheap, easy one from Harbor Freight last year. And oh my gosh, for years we've just been freaking drilling stuff, clamping it in the vise like freaking cavemen. So this is gonna be dope. So we're just gonna start off drilling some little holes on these guys, and then we'll step it up. We'll just get to some big old holes. So again, nothing super precision here. You know, you guys could do this easily. So, even with a regular drill, just clamping it, it'd be fine too. But this, of course, should be a little bit easier. So I'm gonna give it a shot. Fire in the hole!
Stop it.
All right, so we got our modified plate, and I guess we got to see if it'll fit. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's going to need some more drilling and stuff. We can even go up to a bigger bit if we need to. I can take the Sawzall and do some little, modifications if we need to, but let's give it a shot, see where we're at, see what we got to do, see how close we're getting here. Yeah, so that one will go in. So really, I think just the one here looks like it's a bit off. We need to go left. Do you have my marker?
No.
Little lady, she's over here making arts and crafts out here.
Yep, I will show you guys when I'm done.
So we need to come, just grind this a little bit.
I am making arts and crafts.
And then we should be good. That gives us, obviously we way over drilled this piece here. I'm not sure how well that's showing up, but plenty of clearance. So at least we could modify that or remove that if we need to while this is on. We got clearance back here at the cylinder head, not much, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, which is what I wanted. And so that's it. So let's see if we can get this to work. But if it does work, guys, for $200, we got a 40 series that works with our 440cc Duromax. This should also work with your 420 Predators. And then hopefully it saves you guys some money, saves you a couple $100 from having to buy the Go Power Sports one. So let's go ahead and see if this all works out like we think it will. All right, guys, so it looks like we might have messed up here. So we didn't mess up. We got everything done that we were going to do. But now that I'm looking at this new 40 series, the way that this actually has kind of an offset where the, the chain goes, like the drive chain, it looks like it's actually going to be pushed out much farther than the original 30 series that we had. And so then that's going to cause issues where we'd have to move the motor, probably over a few inches. Let me show you. So let's say, for example, original kind of sprockets right here, the way that this new 40 series looks, it's going to like push it out like here. And so we'd have to then move the motor back this way to be able to compensate. And this is already where our bolts are. So we're already kind of to the right as far as possible. So we'd either have to like cut this motor plate off, move it over. Then that's going to also trigger other issues like, having the air filter way out here, all kinds of other problems, which would really be tough to deal with. I don't see any simple solutions for a lot of that stuff. So guess what? I went online, I looked at the Go Power Sports unit, and of course that freaking thing has a flat surface right here, and then your sprocket literally goes right here, which is exactly how it was on the Chinese 30 series. You can see this one was the same way, where I have it taken apart now, but your sprocket is just kind of right here, flush with this unit, which is how the Go Power Sports is, where this one has an offset. I don't have the unit. Oh, right here. And then this sprocket is actually, I could cut the sprocket down, but it still basically would space this piece out, way out here versus way out here. So this is not going to work. It's all modified. It's all good. So I'm going to have to contact the company, and I'll probably see if I can do some kind of return. Obviously, I have to keep this piece that I modified, so maybe I'll be selling this. This could work for someone else. If I was just starting my build like from last year, and I hadn't welded the motor plate, this could probably work for me because I would just make sure when I welded the motor plate, I was far enough to the right. But in my case, I've already welded all this. I've already painted it. Everything else is kind of made for it. I don't really want to have to move this and modify it. And I don't have an adjustment down here on the axle. This thing is just like press fit on as part of it. So I can't like just simply move this. That would be great. If you had a movable sprocket, you'd have no issues, but I don't have that luxury. So I think after all of this, I think we gave it our best shot, but we need to go ahead and order the Go Power Sports $400 40 series, and then I'm also going to order the 2600 RPM stall kit. So I have it in my cart right now. It's about $450, which just makes me want to freaking cry. Because like I said, this whole motor, the whole swap probably cost that much money. And now here we are about to spend that much money on the CVT thing. But you know what? It is what it is at this point. We gave it our best shot. We know that there's no other, thing out there that's going to work. So we're going to go with the Go Power Sports unit. So I'm going to probably post this video. We'll have to wait probably a couple weeks till the Go Power Sports unit comes in, and then we'll keep proceeding from there. But we gave it our best shot.